Considering how much time we spent at school, it's funny how we were never taught to learn, let alone learn efficiently. Learning is a lifelong process, and yet we don't even know how to do it. Let's start by defining what learning is. Learning is the process where we obtain information, understand it, apply it, and retrieve it at will. If you learn something, you know it. Take driving as an example. Once you learn driving, you know it. Same goes for swimming, language. Say hello to cognitive psychology, a field that studies our attention, memory, how we store and recall our memories, and ways to enhance the storage and retrieval of memories. Based on their research, psychologists have come up with tips and tricks on studying effectively. So, without further ado, let's take a look at scientifically proven ways to enhance your learning. Let me remind you, these methods don't just apply to school or university students. These methods can be used to learn anything.
Be warned. It is my job to arm you against the foulest creatures known to wizard kind.
Be aware of your goals, or if you're in school, be aware of the course objectives. Often we don't know where to start. If you're in school or university, look at the course objectives. This is more or less a guarantee of what the course aims at ensuring you learn. This means you are more likely to be tested on these topics and you are expected to remember these topics for the next course. Now, if you're not in school, be aware of your goals. So say you want to learn to play the guitar. Start by making a list of what you want to achieve, what you want to learn. Then proceed. Evaluate your progress at each step. Is learning how to tune your instrument useful? Go ahead and learn that. Would the history of a company that manufactures guitar help you? Probably not. Better skip that, or if you're really curious, maybe watch it while having dinner. Take notes. With the advent of technology, students have printed slides, which they highlight during class or they type their notes onto their laptops. But is this really effective? Sadly, no. Highlighting your textbook or your printed slides is not a good idea. Initially, it might help you as you're reading the notes while highlighting, but over time the process becomes automatic, as in you move your hand without really thinking about the material. The same goes for typing. You just focus on typing quickly. A better idea would be to write down your notes. I'll repeat that. Don't type or highlight your notes, write them instead. Same goes for those not in school. Keep a notebook and take notes of whatever you are studying. This will help you later on too when you want to quickly access a topic. You don't have to search the website or a playlist. You just flip a few pages and it's there. Don't memorize. Repetition may be good for remembering information for a short period of time. Remember when you repeat a phone number multiple times? Yeah, that's what memorization is good for. Memorization may also be good for learning a language, where you associate a sound with a symbol. Resorting to rote memorization for learning is a bad idea, as information is less likely to stick. Hermann Ebbinghaus wanted to study how people forget what is learned over time. He found that memory drops rapidly after the first 2 days and then levels off. This curve, also known as the forgetting curve, shows that you remember only 60% of what you learned within 19 minutes. In 6 days, you remember about 25% of what you learned. Your knowledge plateaus here, as by the end of the month, you remember just over 20% of what you learned. Don't just reread the material. Don't reread the material because it's a trap. As we reread the material, we get familiar with it. This does not mean we are learning. It just means that we are familiar with it. This is called the familiarity effect. Recognizing the material does not mean you can remember it and recall it at a later date. In order to enhance learning, you need to process the information deeper. Start connecting what you're learning to things you know.
But see, they don't know that we know that they know.
One way to process the information deeper is to elaborate on the material you're reading. By that, I mean think deeply about what you're reading. Try connecting what you're reading with what you know. Say you are learning about retrograde amnesia. We know from Tom and Jerry that amnesia is where the character is unable to recall memories. Now throw in this new piece of information that retro means old. So retrograde amnesia means unable to recall memories prior to the accident or event. In contrast, anterograde amnesia means you are unable to store new memories. Create mind maps and flowcharts. Another way to process the information deeper is by creating mind maps and flowcharts. Mind maps and flowcharts gives us a visual representation of how what we are learning connects with what we know and other similar concepts or topics. This in turn gives meaning to what we learn. This process is called chunking, where you group small bits of information into larger chunks. Chunking also helps to reduce the load on memory. Try teaching the material you are learning. Well, this is pretty self-explanatory. You need to have a good mastery of the subject in order to teach anyone else. Actually, you don't even need another person near you. Just try to explain the concept to yourself. If you feel there are portions that don't make sense or you are unable to explain, well, now you know where to focus your study. Start testing and quizzing yourself. Now, this might be more for the school or university students. Testing in this context is where you come up with the questions that you think might be asked in the exam or you think is important. Now, of course, if you're in school, you can refer to your syllabus or course objectives. If you are unable to come up with the questions, you can always refer to the questions at the end of the chapter you are studying or past exam papers. Personally, if I'm put on the spot and I give the right answer, I remember it. And if I'm unable to answer the question or I give the wrong answer, then I pay close attention to the right answer, probably to avoid being embarrassed again. Alright, but looks like we got some bonus tips for you. These mostly relate to your lifestyle. Take breaks. Do not cram. Instead of studying hours on end, space your study into shorter study sessions with breaks. This way of learning may be slower, but you are more likely to retain what you study. Study in different locations. Studies have shown that retrieval from memory is better when the study and testing conditions match. Well, now in English, this means that ideally you must study in your classroom because that is where you will be writing your exam. Of course, this is not possible because your friends would probably keep distracting you, or perhaps you're not comfortable. A solution to this would be to study in different locations, as this prevents learning from being associated with one place. Exercise. That's right. Students who engaged in regular aerobic exercise like running, jump rope, burpees performed better academically in school. Even brief moments of movement is shown to improve concentration. Research has shown that aerobic exercise stimulates the growth of neurons in areas of the brain responsible for memory and learning. Now, if you're not in school, do not worry. Adults too can benefit from exercise. In fact, adults who exercised regularly faced reduced cognitive decline and a reduced risk of dementia as they aged. Mindfulness meditation. Studies have shown that meditation, specifically mindfulness meditation, helps students perform better in exams. Mindfulness is where you pay attention to the present moment and to your thoughts in a deliberate and non-judgmental manner. In addition to academic performance, mindfulness also helps in reducing anxiety, improving self-control, increase in attention and cognitive flexibility. And finally, sleep. Probably the least expected here, but it's true. Sleeping right after learning leads to better recall. Experiments have shown that students were able to better recall the material they studied before their sleep than the material they studied earlier on. So if you want to take a nap during your break, go ahead. But make sure you continue studying when you're up. Alright folks, that's our episode for today. I hope this list helps. If you have applied these tips or are planning to apply these tips, please let me know how it goes in the comment section below. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one.